Hello again, everyone. It's Mark Walmsley here. I'm the founder of the Arts and Culture Network. We're at 144,000 now, I think, across our 8 LinkedIn groups, with something like 150 people applying to join our group every day, which is keeping me busy. But this bit is the best part of the job for me. This is where I get to introduce you to one of our full members. And it's a particular pleasure today because I'm also introducing a good friend. I think we probably go back over 20 years, which is...
I reckon you're right. I think we do.
So James Matthewson has joined me from Jersey, I think. Are you in Jersey, James?
I am in Jersey, just in the middle of the Channel Islands. Yeah, just in the middle of the English Channel.
Excellent. So we're going to have some fun. I'm going to create James's fantasy cultural year from the answers to 10 easy questions, which inevitably will produce anecdotes, surprises, a few laughs, and probably a conversational detour or two. But before I do that, James, would you like to take this opportunity to say hi to everyone and tell us what it's like working at the convergence of Web3 technology and fine art?
Yeah, thanks, Mark, and thanks for the introduction and invitation to the podcast. Hello, everyone in the Arts and Culture Network. So my name is James Matthewson. I am the founder and CEO of a business based out of Jersey, Channel Islands, called SUPERLUXE and Partners. Essentially, we are by heritage a fine art business, but we have taken that big step into the Web3 space, which essentially means we put art on the blockchain, and we have our own cryptocurrency, or token, if you prefer, which is called ArtX, which is minted on the Solana blockchain, and it unlocks certain features and benefits and value for token holders that non-token holders would otherwise they wouldn't receive. So yeah, SUPERLUXE very much sits at the heart of fine art and Web3 technology at the moment, and I think we're unusual in what we do. We're not necessarily unique, but I think we're a fairly small community of people in the art and Web3 space currently.
Sounds great. And I imagine you're solving quite a significant problem, which is nailing down ownership of a physical product in many cases.
Yes, several problems, actually. Provenance is one that we address. The other one I like to talk about, which I don't think people talk about very often, is portability. So the ability to have a piece of fine art on your super yacht, or in your apartment in Monaco, or even in your private jet, has historically been challenging because fine art doesn't travel particularly well. It's logistically complicated to move around. It's expensive to move. It's fraught with potential damage or theft. Whereas what we're doing in the Web3 space is we're minting art as NFTs, a word that's become slightly tarnished by some of the history in the last couple of years in the NFT market, but we think they have an important role to play in the art market, in the art world. And NFTs create new opportunities for artists that didn't exist in the traditional space offline. So we think we solve a number of different problems, but they're different problems for different people with different needs. Artists, for example, when you sell a piece of art offline, once that piece of art is sold, it disappears into the ether. With digital art, we know every time it sells, the smart contract is triggered, and we know that it's sold, and a piece of that sale value comes back to the artist.
And for those people who prefer to keep physical pieces of art under lock and key, it can stay where it is, even if the ownership changes.
That's right. It's all about the smart contract being triggered in the exchange of ownership of the artwork. So provenance is definitely one thing. Portability is another. For the artist, having a recurring income stream from art sales of their work for in perpetuity. There's lots of upsides. But we're not always welcome everywhere we go when we talk about this. So we are very much, I feel like, when I started my job 30 years ago, almost in Web 1, it was the mid-90s, 1996, 97, I very much had the same conversations. People thought I was mad. People thought this thing called the internet would never take off. People thought it was for those, dark, dangerous people doing naughty things. And we had the same conversations when Web 2 came along. It was, mobile banking's never going to take off. Why would I want to be posting pictures of my food on Instagram? What's the point of social media and e-commerce? And here we are, moving into Web 3, and we're having similar sorts of conversations about the adoption of technology like blockchain, like tokenization, and like cryptocurrency in the art market. And there are a lot that are receptive, but there's a lot more that are less than receptive to it currently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it strikes me that having a trustless platform, a platform that doesn't rely on trust, is inevitable, if not imminent. And so is a global single currency. It's inevitable, but perhaps not imminent. Somebody once came up with a very good analogy of, for me on that. If you buy a book from Amazon, they've got your money before you've got the book. So you're trusting Amazon to send you the book. Okay.
Right. Exactly.
In a blockchain environment, imagine you've got two boxes, both of which have a gate at each end. Okay. This is how somebody explained it to me. If you want that book, you open your door and you put the money in the box on the left, and then you close the door. Amazon then opened their door and put the book in the box on the right, and then close their door. And once both those doors are closed, the other two open, right? So there's no question, there's no waiting. It's an immediate exchange, and I found that really useful. I think you're absolutely right. I think anything new and shiny and a little bit underground is always going to be. I mean, I can remember when people told me I would never spend £1,000 buying a holiday online, and that was back in the day when you'd probably risk £5 for a book at Amazon. But
yes.
It is what's that law? Is it something's law where things?
It's Moore's law.
Moore's law, that's the one. Yeah. So I think we're on the right track, and it's inevitable.
There is an inevitability to it for me, Mark, which history repeats itself. I saw the inevitability in the adoption of the internet in the late 90s and early noughties. I saw the inevitability of social media, of mobile, of the smartphone and e-commerce, and I see the inevitability of blockchain and tokenization and cryptocurrency in the art market. It's what we're doing is we're slowly educating. Last week I ran a 35-person lunch and learn on blockchain tokenization and cryptocurrency. I had 35 people turn up. That was the room capacity that I had booked, and all 35 people turned up. We had a fantastic 90-minute session. And for me, it was about educating people on this journey. It's not a sales message. It's very much this is where we're going. These are the challenges. These are the opportunities, but this is what's happening. And, we had a queue of people at the end wanting to have a follow-up conversation with us. So there's real interest and there's real appetite, but there remains a little bit of cynicism and fear and uncertainty, because whenever you're doing something disruptive, you're always going to put someone's nose out of joint, and you're always going to have a certain amount of people that are slightly scared of you because of it. And I'm lucky enough to have thick skin and enough resilience from nearly 3 decades in digital that I've lived through this journey a couple of times already. So we're well on our way.
Good. Well, we might, if you asked somebody and gave them the benefit of hindsight and said to them, knowing what we now know, would you have published a website sooner? Would you have created a mobile application sooner? Would you have started transactional websites earlier? Would you have adopted social media earlier? Would you, it's just, we're in the same situation again. Anyway, you and I could chew the cud over this for hours.
We could.
So where can we find out more about the work you're doing, James?
Well, LinkedIn, like you, I'm prolific on LinkedIn, so please just look me up. I'm James SUPERLUXE is my handle on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. We have a company page on LinkedIn for SUPERLUXE and partners as well, so that's easy to find. Check us out on Instagram. We're on all of the obvious social media, but also you will come to know, if you don't already, that the crypto space is very much driven by X, formerly Twitter, Discord and Telegram, and we're on all of those as well. So if you want to know anything about us, those are where the kind of the content stuff happens. Later this month, we'll be launching superlux.io, and that's the transactional art platform where we will be presenting around $40 million worth of art that we currently manage globally and exclusively on behalf of the artists we represent. So that's coming. It's just not quite there yet, but maybe by the time this goes out, Mark, we'll be there or thereabouts.
Excellent. And just finally, what's the breakdown between physical pieces of art and digital art on the platform?
Yeah, actually, it swings very heavily in favor of physical. I would say, you know, we've got published data around 80-20, so 80% of the art we sell is in limited edition print format, or it's in an original format, or we do some special formats. We've done quite a bit with lenticular, which we love. We've done quite a lot recently with 3D with our K Moss collection. But most of our art, 80% of the art we represent and have in our portfolio is physical art, right, and then 20% in the digital sphere.
Excellent. So if you're a visual artist or a collector, or then do please have a look. And it's Superlux with an E on the end.
It is Superlux, SUPERLUXE.
Perfect. Well, wherever this appears, there'll be links galore.
Thank you. That'd be amazing.
So now I'm going to have some fun now. We need to rifle through this really. So I'm going to create your fantasy cultural year. Now, okay, to do that, I need to place you somewhere in the world. So what's your favorite building?
Oh, favorite building, Flatiron in New York.
Lovely. You're at the top of that on the tiny office that must be really triangular and small. Right. I'd like you to imagine you're sitting at a pavement cafe outside the Flatiron,
yeah,
and with a lovely view of it. It's June, it's 6 p.m, you're in New York City, and there is a book next to you on the table there. What book might I find next to you?
Oh God, this is a tough one. I'm no literary expert, and I really should read more. Is the honest answer. I should be saying something sophisticated, like, I don't know, Moby Dick or something, but God, I don't know.
I'll give you some help. It could be your favorite book. It could be a book that you remember from childhood. It could be a book that has been with you all your life. It could be some self-help book that changed the way you think, or it could be a recent discovery. It can be any one of those things.
Okay, I'm going to go with this, and it's because guiltily I feel like I need to come back to it, which is I started reading Atomic Habits. I did get into it. I really enjoyed it, but I stopped reading for whatever reason, and I need to pick it up. So I'm going to say my book on the table next to me is Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits. Who's that by?
Oh, that would have to be a quick Google, I'm afraid.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's actually
James Clear.
James Clear, exactly. And the premise of it is, rather than try to make big, significant changes in one go in your life, you make small, incremental, daily changes that over time make a significant change in your life. So it's kind of like do 1% daily differently, and over the course of time, those little 1% add up to a big shift in behaviour. Yeah. And he uses examples from things like the British Olympics teams, and you know, elite sportsmen, and of course you know, people at the top of their game in business who have practiced this methodology and have, you know, achieved significant things as a result.
Compound personal growth.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. There's a book in that. I'm going to get ChatGPT to write it and stick it on Audible.
Love it.
Excellent. Okay, so we've got the book. What about a drink on the left? 6 p.m, sunny New York City. What would the drink be?
Simple pleasures. It'd probably be a beer.
Right. Nice cold beer. Excellent.
A nice cold beer.
Now, you've come from a meeting in the Flatiron building and you're feeling quite pleased with yourself because a very wealthy New York Family Foundation have hired you for a year, okay, at enormous expense.
Of course.
First class all the way, no, all expenses covered. All your personal admin is done, so things at home can keep on track. They'd like to hire you to do a research project. They particularly like the work that you're doing on the edge of technology and fine art. So they'd like you to do a year-long research study into how the fine art market is being affected by modern digital technology.
Okay.
There's a book deal in it. There's a TED talk in it.
Okay.
A university lecture tour, North America, Europe, and Southeast Asia.
Wow.
And there is a TV series in it. Okay. All you have to do is to decide where you're going to do this research, or certainly where you're going to start it. So where would you like to start?
Okay, you mean physically in the world? Where would I start?
Physically in the world, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Well, firstly, I love the sound of this job, and if you could make that a reality, that would be amazing. Where would I start? Well, I think given that we're talking something immersive, something cultural, I'm erring towards Italy. I'm thinking somewhere in Italy where I could become deeply immersed in art and technology. So I'm going to go with Rome.
Rome. Excellent. I love Rome. Everything's walking distance.
Yeah, yeah. I love Rome too. I love Rome too. I would love to be back there soon. So
okay. Well, I'm sending you there now. You're on the plane. You turned left when you got on the plane, by the way. And the steward brings you a nice cold beer and a note from the Wealthy Family Foundation in New York, because they'd like to experiment on you a little bit. And they've asked you to limit your musical intake,
yes,
to one very specific type of music for 12 months.
Okay.
What would you choose?
I think I would choose opera.
Nice.
I think I would choose opera because it's probably so far out of my normal listening habits, and it's yet something I grew up around. My father played opera all the time in the house, and I think it is for me a genre of music that's so far out of my normal habits and behaviours that I think it would be really good for me to immerse myself in operatic.
Excellent. That's a great choice. That's a smart choice. Not everybody chooses something that they don't know. It's really that's an eye opener on the way you think, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so you arrive in Rome, and a group of people are there holding a card with your name on it. They're going to welcome you in.
Great.
They bundle you into a limo and into a beautiful loft apartment overlooking, where should we put you? Within sight of
near the Colosseum.
Near the Colosseum, yeah. They say, right, settle in, unpack, relax. We're coming back to get you later to take you to a dance performance, and we're also going to take you to dinner. Now, I have a magic cultural wand here. You don't have to stick to Italian culture, okay?
Okay.
But so I can put anything on that stage. So you're going to the theatre and for a dance performance, and on that stage can be any dance performance you like.
Love it.
Historical or current, original cast, any dancer, living or not, any dance group or any dance style. What would you like to watch for a couple of hours?
Hip hop.
Okay.
I'm going hip hop all the way. I think it would just be amazing to see hip hop culture in Rome, on the stage in a packed auditorium. I think would just be mind blowing. I think it could be colourful, and it could be dramatic, and I just think it would be amazing. So I'm going to go with hip hop.
That's it. That's there for you. And dinner afterwards, you can have any national cuisine you like, and there is a Michelin star restaurant waiting for you.
Okay, nice. Well, I'm always, my first go-to is always just a fantastic fillet steak. But we are in Rome, and we are in the land of the finest Italian food. So I'm actually gonna go with pizza.
Ah, okay, nice, like it. Excellent. Now the next day is Saturday, and it's sport day in Italy.
Okay.
What are you going to go and see?
Just do we include the bull ring in that? You know, the matador.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can.
Okay. I think I'm going to go with a bit of traditional Italian. Oh no, is matador Spanish? Hang
It
on.
is Spanish. Yeah, it is Spanish, but
Okay.
I'm sure they probably do it in Italy. We've got a helicopter, by the way, so we could nip to Seville.
Okay. Showing my ignorance here of cultural sporting heritage. Okay. I don't know. I really would fancy that cheese rolling thing, but I'm not sure that's in Italy either, is it?
I'm sure they probably do somewhere, so that could be great. A bit of gorgonzola. There we
Let's
go.
do some Italian cheese rolling down the streets of Rome.
Yeah, chased by bulls. Excellent. That's fine. Now, in Rome, they have a new digitally enhanced gallery that allows you to put a virtual reality helmet on and step into the work of a famous artist, walk around, have a look around, 3 dimensions, 360 degrees. Whose work would you like to step into?
Could be Leonardo da Vinci's, obviously, couldn't it? Yeah, that's a really interesting one, because there's so many incredible old masters and artists, but there's also some really incredible modern stuff happening as well. So I don't know, Mark. I'm gonna have to let that percolate a little bit, actually.
Yeah, well, stepping into Da Vinci's studio would be good fun.
Yeah, you know, the inspiration for that thought process was I remember enjoying, there was a series with about Da Vinci as a young man and all his antics. I can't remember what it was called, but it was just really good. He was quite an interesting character, I believe. So I think that would be quite an interesting journey to go on.
It would. You could step into the Last Supper and see what's behind them.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Okay, now I'm flying out to meet you, and we're having a week together. We're going to do something artistic and cultural every weeknight. Okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday is going to be a pop or rock concert from history.
All right.
A theatre play on Tuesday.
Okay.
A West End or Broadway musical on Wednesday.
Okay.
We're going to the opera on Thursday.
Very good.
And you're taking me to the cinema on Friday. So I want you to think of a gig that you could have gone to and didn't, and now rather wish you had.
Well, I'm probably going to show myself as very British here, but and it's very now, given they've released new tour dates, but I did always regret missing the original Oasis gigs. So I think if I could turn back time, I would go to an Oasis gig.
Okay, I like that. My missed opportunity was when I was 12 in 1975. My father was going to take me to Bob Marley at the Rainbow.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
And that's the one that got recorded and the album was made from.
Right.
So I missed that one. Okay, that's great. So we're going back in time into the 90s for some Oasis live.
Bit of Oasis, yeah.
Theatre play. What do you have any favorite Shakespeare's or anything? What would you like to watch? We can get in the helicopter and go to the Globe if you wish, but is there a theatre play that you'd like to see from history?
Old theatre I've never really been a fan of. I grew up on Twelfth Night and Hard Times. You know, Dickens, Hard Times, Shakespeare, Twelfth Night. You know, those were sort of entrenched into me in school, and I loved actually Twelfth Night. I really enjoyed that particular book. But I don't know, maybe.
We can do that one if you wish at the Globe and fly back in the helicopter.
Yeah, let's do that for the purpose of time and efficiency. Let's go with Twelfth Night at the Globe.
Okay, and a musical, West End or Broadway?
Okay, well, I recently, well, not that recently, but a little while ago, I took my wife and my mother-in-law to see on Broadway the something boys,
Jersey Boys.
the Jersey Boys. Yeah. So I'd like to revisit that. That would be that. I'll take you on a date to see the Jersey Boys.
I love it. Excellent. That's Frankie Valli, isn't it?
Yeah, originally it was. I mean, obviously the current Broadway.
That's
Yeah,
changed.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's changed a lot. Yeah.
And how about an opera? I can suggest one for your immersion in opera, or do you have a favorite?
Well, I just remember listening to Carmina Burana a lot as a child, but I don't know if that's the name of the opera or if that was the name of the song, but or a song. But that sticks in my mind very, very
Was
firmly.
that family listening when you
That,
were
that
a
was
kid?
that was my dad. My father always
Yeah.
played that.
Carmina Burana is by Carl Orff. It's an orchestral piece with a choir, and it's amazing.
Incredible.
It's the soundtrack from the Old Spice adverts from the 70s.
That's right. Maybe that's my association,
Yeah.
as opposed to now I'm on a horse.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. And a film. I'd like you to choose something that you love and have seen, but I may not have done.
Okay, well, I suspect you've seen this because you're a bit of an old romantic, and then that much I know about you, and so am I. And one of my favourite movies of all time is Will Smith in Hitch. You know the one?
I do. I've seen it. Yeah.
You know what? I've watched it so many times, and I love everything about it.
Yeah.
Movie night for me would be Hitch.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything with Will Smith in it. Actually, you know, I Am Legend, totally different vibe, but again, another movie I've watched over and over and over again. So yeah, but let's go with Hitch. Bring out
Okay.
the old romantics in us.
Fantastic. Now you're nearly there for your induction in Rome here, and it's going to be Hero Day tomorrow. It's
Okay.
Sunday afternoon. I've booked a leisurely lunch for you at the Michelin-starred restaurant. It's an Argentinian Italian fusion steak restaurant.
Sounds perfect.
And you can invite one person to join you, and it can be somebody living or not, famous or not. Who would you like to join you for lunch?
Oh, that's a great question. The obvious answer should be somebody dead, because what a great, you know, there's always the possibility of meeting someone alive that's still alive, but you can't meet someone who's gone and been and gone. So who would that be? It would have to be somebody who's passed this earth, who made a profound impact. I don't know. I'm sort of torn here between, you know, somebody quintessentially British like Winston Churchill versus somebody kind of slightly more out there like Elvis Presley. You know,
Okay.
tough one. Muhammad Ali is also one of, you know, my iconic legends. I would love to sit and have a conversation with him. The younger Muhammad Ali. Let's go with that. Actually, I think I've settled on the younger Muhammad Ali.
As he appeared in the 70s on Parkinson.
Yeah, that Parkinson clip, or those Parkinson clips are just phenomenal.
Yeah, they really are. Now, in a slight twist to that question, I'd like you to invite somebody else who you think Muhammad Ali would like to meet.
Ooh, okay. Well, I'm sure he probably met most people in his time, most significant people. But I don't know. I wonder if he ever met the Pope. Yeah, maybe bring along the Pope. The current Pope would be maybe an interesting dynamic to the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Done. Now,
This is bonkers.
What?
It's bonkers.
This is bonkers. Yeah. We're there now. You're on the plane home. Book's done. TV series is in the can. Lecture tour arranged. TED Talk is ready to be done, and you get a nice cold beer on the plane on your way home, with a note from the Family Foundation saying that they're relinquishing you of the limitation to opera. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the first piece of music that's not opera that you would want to listen to that you hadn't heard for 12 months?
50 Cent.
50s. Love it.
I don't know what this whether there's a psychological profiling going on here, but whatever you're learning here, I think it's great fun.
Brilliant. Yeah, people have suggested that I have this analysed to try and look into it. But there we go. That's your fantasy cultural year, James Matthewson. Thank you so much for doing
This is your life. This is your year.
Yeah. They need to bring that back as well. Excellent. So did you enjoy your fantasy cultural year in Rome?
Well, I did immensely. I find it challenging being put on the spot to have to make such important decisions, but yeah, no, I did, and I'm well up for that year. That sounds like a great year of life to spend.
It does, doesn't it? So thank you so much. Wherever this appears, on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify podcast, and our website, of course, there'll be links to more about James and a profile. So do please explore all the things that James is up to. But in the meantime, James, thank you so much. You've been a very good sport, and you did a great job. So thank you very much for being one of our full members and for joining me today.
Absolute pleasure, Mark. Great to see you, bud. And yeah, thanks again for having me.